In this lesson, we're going to set up a game mode to use our new pawn. Alright, so now that we have set up our inputs for our keyboard, our mouse, and the jump, we want to go ahead and we want to associate that to our level. So let's go ahead and go to our level editor, and let's talk about creating a new game mode. Because if I go ahead and I hit play, if I come in, you'll notice that I'm spawning here, and I can begin to move around, and I can still fly around like I normally would, and it's kind of like in spectator mode, and I really don't want that. So let's go ahead and hit escape or shift F1 and then stop to get outside of that. And let's talk about how we get our character that we just created into this game. So to do that, we need to create a new game mode. And this can be done by going to your Blueprints folder, New, and Blueprint. At this time, instead of using the character blueprint, we want to use a game mode blueprint. So go ahead and left click on that, or I should say game mode class for that. Let's go ahead and call it BP_my_game and hit enter. Then you'll double click on that, and it's going to bring up your class blueprint editor. We don't really care about the components or the graph. We don't need anything in there. We just need what's in our defaults mode. So let's take a look at this. You'll notice the game mode, we have a couple of different parameters that we can change. The only thing that we really want to change about our game is the pawn that is being used, or the player. So in this case, we're going to hit our drop down, and because we have our blueprint my character created, we can go ahead and use it. Now this is all we have to do, just simply compile and save, and now we have our game mode set. Now if I go into my level and I hit play again, you'll still notice that we are flying around. Why isn't it using our character? We set up our game mode, so why isn't it using it? Well, let's go ahead and hit escape. What's happening is that the game mode has not been set yet. This needs to be set up in your project settings. So simply go up to File, or actually, excuse me, Edit, and then Project Settings. And instead of being in input where we've been, we want to go to Maps and Modes. We'll notice that we have the game default map and the game or the editor startup map. Those aren't really what pertains to us, but we're seeing these default modes right here. Let's go ahead and go to default game mode, and let's set this to BP my game. Now what this is going to do is it's going to look for that game mode, and it's going to say, all right, we're using this pawn, this player controller, and everything else that's in there, and it's going to associate that. So now all we have to do is go ahead and just go back to our level here, and we'll simply hit play. And then now if we hit our mouse, we start using the W, A, S, and D keys. You can see that we can move around with our mouse. Right now we have these inverted controls with our mouse as far as looking up and down. That's okay for right now. But you can see that we're able to move around. We can even hit the jump button, and we're able to jump. All right, so everything is working perfect. Now, if you want to change that inverted controls, I'm not much of an inverted controls kind of person, but if you want to change that, you can do so. Now, I'm going to show you how to just change it. If we wanted to give the player the option of doing inverted controls or what I would consider normal controls, don't hate me if you're an inverted controls person, you would want to go ahead and create some sort of action for doing that. That's outside of the scope of this course. We don't want to get too far into blueprints and things like that. It would require creating a Boolean value and creating variables inside of blueprints. But we're not quite there yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit escape to stop that. Now, what is causing the invert in the look up and down? Well, if we take a look at our blueprint for the character, if we take a look at our mouse input, we're seeing look up and add controller pitch, but it's being controlled by the values that we set in our inputs. Okay, we can see that here. So we know that it isn't right here. It's in those project settings. So let's go to project settings, and then we're going to go to input under engine, and then we'll go to our axis mapping, and then we're going to go to lookup, and then our mouse Y is set to a +1. Let's go ahead and set it to a -1, and that will give you that normal control. Now, obviously, if it's a positive scale of 1, I guess that technically means that inverted controls are normal, so I apologize for that. All right, so let's go ahead and save this out. Let's export it, and I'm going to use the same input here. We can save that just to overwrite that. You could do the same thing for your maps and modes. If you wanted to go ahead and make this the default, you could do that. But I wouldn't suggest doing that. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it just the way it is. Okay. So let's go ahead and go into our level. Now if I come in and I play this, you can see that we have our mouse controls. We're moving around perfectly. And now if I move my mouse up, I'm looking up and then looking down. So you can see how that is working there. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to create an interactive level. We've got our player moving around. We've got a little bit of exposure to blueprints and how it works. Let's talk about adding a little bit of a puzzle to our game. So let's say that we want to try and find something inside of our level. Let's say we want to find a key or something like that that will unlock maybe a treasure chest or something that is in our level. And we'll go ahead and we'll get started with that in our next lesson.